This is going to be one of the most horrific things we've ever covered on this show. So I just feel like I need to talk about this, especially with all of these executive orders coming out in the USA, potentially, putting trans people in a position where just living might be illegal. And considering that they've just, they've tried to enforce this, putting all trans women into men's prisons, knowing that the sexual assault rate is horrific. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to be talking about sexual assault and other things along those lines. Please drop off, skip forwards 15 minutes. Don't watch this video, this part of the video, if you're not ready for that. But this is going to be fucking bleak, by the way. It's going to be very upsetting. But this is the reality of things, and we just need to cover it. We need people to know this, and I want random cis people discovering this video to be like, what the actual fucking shit is this? And to know that this is normal practice. So in the USA, in prisons, where USA has a really bad problem for prison sexual assault and rape, there is something called V-coding. Let's see if we can get this on the screen all at once. So this is from Wikipedia. You can look it up yourself. You can follow the references yourself. I've definitely read about this in multiple places. V-coding is the practice of assigning trans women placed in men's prisons to cells with aggressive cisgender male cellmates as both a reward and a means of placation for said cellmates, so as to maintain social control and, to as one inmate described it, keep the violence rate down. So this is trans women being forced into a men's prison, which is the official US government policy and the policy of lots of the UK and other countries too, forcing them into a men's prison, whether they're a danger to anyone or not. And then the guards, the people in charge of prison replacement, selecting to put this trans woman, in a cell specifically with the most violent and aggressive, like rapey cellmates, in order to try and calm them down. So basically, like throwing them a piece of meat or something. This isn't like the prisoners doing it on their own and the prison guards not stepping in to do anything. This is like actively organized by the prison, by the people who are in charge. Trans women used in this manner are often raped daily, and this process has been described as so common that it is effectively a central part of a trans woman's sentence. Just get that into your mind. Raped daily. Like a central part of a trans woman's sentence. It is common for correctional officers to publicly strip search trans women inmates before putting their bodies on display, not only for other correctional officers, but for other prisoners. Trans women in this situation are sometimes made to dance, present, or masturbate at the correctional officer's discretion. And this is so... The reason that I'm not like overwhelmed with... I'm able to read this out is I've encountered this before. And the first time I encountered it, it made me so distressed that it made me like physically ill. These are real people. Trans women, I mean... In 2025, trans women might go to prison for being a teacher. But trans women go to prison for all kinds of things, like being a prostitute in a place where that's illegal, or being accused of deception when someone who knew they were trans had sex with them and then decided they were feeling like embarrassed by it. Or even just for things like stealing. Like if a trans woman shoplifts 3 times in a state with one of these 3 strike laws, then goes to prison and now is by the state punished with rape, like just beyond horrific. A 2021, so this is quite modern. 2021 California study found that nearly 70% of trans women prisoners reported being forced to perform sex acts against their will. Like nearly 3/4, over 2/3. Nearly 60% reported being violently sexually assaulted, and 88% overall reported being made to take part in a marriage-like relationship. 88%. 9 in 10 trans women in prison had to go through some form of this. In California, that's not even going to be the worst state for human rights, and prisoners and stuff. Trans women who physically resist the advances of other prisoners, like this is it. The grimness just keeps going. Like it's more disgusting every single sentence you read. Trans women who physically resist the advances of other prisoners are often criminally charged with assault and placed in solitary confinement. The assault charge then being used to extend the woman's prison stay and deny her parole. Like, if this isn't the most, like, evil thing you've ever read or ever heard of, like it's beyond dehumanization. Like, you wouldn't force this on, like, an animal. You wouldn't. Just utterly horrific. You have to dehumanize someone to the point they're, like, less than cockroaches in order to think that this is even, like, acceptable, let alone, like, people. There are multiple people involved in this. Like, when you work at a prison, it requires the whole flipping staff and the people in charge in order to organize this kind of thing. The crime, like the unjust behavior going on here from the people involved in this is worse than any crime that the trans woman's committed. Like, the fact that this is some organized, like, rape factory is beyond, like, nightmare. It's just so utterly horrific. And I just need people to know that this is the kind of way that trans people are treated in the USA and in other countries. I mean, if you think the USA is the worst place for trans people, you have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, it's just so bewilderingly horrific. And this is before Donald Trump's latest bullshit. And this is when all these, J.K. Rowling types are like, oh, well, we've got to put trans women in men's prisons. But they don't give a fuck about any of this. Totally encourage all of this rubbish. If a trans woman goes to prison for shoplifting, they're happy for this to happen. They would never speak out against something like this, even though they know it's true. Every time a gender critical person talks about prison, someone brings up and points out that trans people are sexually assaulted at horrifically high rates. They don't give a fuck. They do not care at all. They don't think you're human. Yeah, so someone's saying they would not only condone this, but they would see it as just and fair. Yeah, honestly, I mean, it's like the story we looked at last week of the trans girl who was stabbed by a gang, and all the gender criticals were saying that she should be tried and sent to prison because she dared to be attractive to some murderous dickhead who filmed her having sex without her consent. Like, they genuinely enjoy your suffering, and I think I'm not saying that to alarm you. I'm saying that to get it in your mind that these aren't reasonable people who have been led astray. There absolutely are transphobes who, if they had a few hours talking to a trans person, they would realize that what they believe was kind of rubbish and unfair. Lots of people have, like, baseline transphobic views because that's just what they've been taught in society. The kind of people doing this stuff and the gender critical, the main people pushing it and stuff, they do not think you're human at all. They enjoy your suffering, and if you mix up these two groups, you're just gonna get. They're gonna lie to you. They're gonna waste your time. They're gonna You're gonna get demoralized from it because you're gonna be desperate. Like, when you meet, like, I've had this situation a few times where I've met someone at the pub and they've said some transphobic thing, and I've talked to them about it for a couple of hours, and then they've, like, apologized to me, or they've clearly learnt something, or they've been horrified at what they said. And sometimes people just need talking to. And what you do in that situation is you humanize yourself. You're like, mate, you just said this horrible thing, but I'm actually a normal person. Like, here's my hopes and dreams. Let me tell you about my hobby or whatever. And they realize you're a normal person. If you try and humanize yourself to someone who is, like, ideologically committed to not seeing you as a person, you're going to be like debasing yourself. You're going to be, you're saying, look, I'm a human, please see me as a human, and they're going to be laughing at your suffering, and that is so much more painful than that is one of the most painful things. Like I've done this so many times. I've talked to so many gender critical people and tried to humanize myself to them. And if you do it for months at a time with someone who maybe has some ability of like rational introspection and stuff, you can de-radicalize people. I have helped de-radicalize people before, and I know lots of trans people have. But the amount of effort you have to put into that is like a lot. It is months, minimum months of effort every single day talking to someone who doesn't see you as a person. And some of them just aren't going to change their mind. Some of them are going to get worse, and you're going to be out there using all of your energy to humanize yourself and show you, like, please just see me as a person. Please just stop treating me as like subhuman scum. And then when they don't, it's very painful. And so that's why I want you to understand this stuff. Not that, oh, the whole world doesn't see you as human. Not that, oh, you can't live a happy life. Not that, oh, we're doomed. None of that is true at all. I live a happy life knowing that there are some people out there who will not ever see me as human and will enjoy any suffering that I ever have in my life. But that's humans. Like, humans are bleak, and a lot of people are really grim, and you just got to be realistic about it. I have so many amazing people in my life, so many lovely people who love me and who I love, and my life is great because of it. And the fact that there are some people out there who, would enjoy torturing me, I'm not going to let them fill me with despair, fill me with dread, make me upset, make me feel like giving up on people, make me stop loving people. Like, you just can't. You just have to be realistic about it. Like, it's like with the studies on like chimpanzees. My goodness, what is her name? Oh, Jane Goodall. So when Jane Goodall went to go and she was like a famous behaviorologist of primates, and she went to go and live with all these chimpanzees, and she realized how like humans they were, and how loving they can be, and how understanding of each other, and they have all these relationships, and she lived with them, and it was all amazing, and that was like groundbreaking research at the time. But there's this like interview of her talking about how all of a sudden they had like this war, like the group of chimps kind of drifted apart into two groups, and then they just had this war, and they just like tore each other apart, and they were like ripping each other's arms off and enjoying causing pain to each other. And she said it was like so demoralizing to realize that these like lovely animals are capable of such like horrific levels of cruelty. And that's the reality. That's just primates. That's, humans aren't that much different. And some of us are wired in a way where it's very easy for us to enjoy causing cruelty to others. And some people maybe could never do that. Who knows? But at least some of them can. And you cannot let that demoralize you. You just have to be realistic about it, or you will waste your time and energy on someone who enjoys being cruel to you. And lying to you is something they can do to do that.